Finding your own strength is an inner journey that all of us must take if we're going to find peace. Peace starts with us within ourselves. We must look within ourselves, make that connection, and learn how to listen to our conscience, learn how to listen to our intuition, and learn how to listen to our instincts, because all of us have that. We cannot blame other people for where we are. We need to stop blaming. You take responsibility. We all come into this world alone and we die alone. And in between that time of birth and death, we are totally responsible for what we do in our lives. And if we make really bad choices or just little choices that are really bad, they all affect you. So you have to start thinking about, and I have to be very much aware, and that's called self-awareness. When we become self-aware, then we make good choices for ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and our community. There's a big difference between obey and self-discipline. We all need to have self-discipline, but if you are going to obey something and you think it's wrong, then you have every right to say no. Matter of fact, one of the things we teach young children is the no, go, yell, tell. If you're going to be abused, and this is something parents can teach their kids, talk to your children about if somebody approaches you and touches you in an area covered by a bathing suit, for example, and you feel it's not right, you know it's, and you're a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, you teach that child to say no. You teach them to go, leave as soon as you can, speak up, because everybody that wants to abuse a child wants the child to be complacent, to go along with it, to not say anything. So no, go, and then if they hold on to you, you yell your little head off, and then you tell. You must tell an adult. So parents, teach your children to take charge of their own life, because so many little children are kind of put into this little box like you have to obey every adult. Well, unfortunately, we have an incredible amount of predators now. We have opened the box for sexual predators, and they are in our neighborhoods. So you need to teach your kids how to take responsibility for their own little body. And you got to start early so that they do speak up and they do tell and yell if they need to.
These kids that grow up to hate somebody vicariously, and I say vicariously because they never met the person they hate. They hate somebody of another color, another religion, another country, anything, just to have a hate image and assume that that gives them power. Don't realize that that depowers them. It takes away their own power.
That's right.
They don't get it.
It's a false sense of power.
Right.
Everybody has an inner power. But if somebody's trying to control you to do something you don't like, that is that is a false sense of power. And if you are going out and hurting people, that is a power that is very self-destructive. I mean, can you imagine strapping on a bomb and teaching people that this is good? To strap on a bomb and go and blow up a bunch of people. I mean, just because, that's our religion? No, that is not a religion. That is evil in its worst sense. And to assume that any God would want other people destroyed is so evil. It's all of us seem to know that. But the trick is, how do we stop it? And how you stop it is by setting the examples, and the military have to take out these puppet masters, and we all have to work together to make our communities stronger so that our children are not tempted to go into a gang or over to ISIS.
There's a certain amount of insanity that's so easily overlooked. And that insanity is, how can there be justice in injustice?
There is no justice in injustice. Slavery comes from within, too. It's
Right.
not just somebody has power over you. You have to enslave yourself and allow them to do that to you. And I know in some countries it's very difficult to get out, but they need to unite, whether it's underground or whether it's looking for the right resources to help you to get out of this situation. We all have to take back our own power, and our own power is knowing that God, the real God, is something that we can reach up and grab onto at any time and ask for their wisdom and move in that direction. There is wisdom in that, finding a real God, but a false God will tell you what you know is wrong. So one of the reasons that ISIS covers their faces, and that is because what they're doing is very wrong and they know it. Inside, they know this is evil. So they don't want you to see them. They're assuming that the real God can't see them. So anyway, if you're proud of what you're doing, speak up, stand up, and let yourself be known.
There is no human caring and capacity to care in destroying human beings. And blaming it on God is kind of mentally ill. It's using a big stick, bigger than themselves. You know, we'll grab this big stick in the sky, God or the devil, whichever one works, and we'll beat these people half to death with it till they're terrified and we can control them. It's like in my childhood, our God was so mean, the devil was on unemployment and could only get a part-time job as a scapegoat. And during an extreme crisis in my youth, I wondered why any just God would do that. And in that moment, at 11 years old, I knew no just God would.
All right.
At 11 years old.
Mm-hmm. See, everybody has that inner understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have to tap into it yourself. You can't look for somebody else to give that power to you because you already have it.
That's
All you have
true.
to do is go within. And, you know, I was 15 when I was abandoned in Mexico City. My mother and her boyfriend took me down to Mexico. I didn't speak the language, and I came out of a private school, so I lived a sheltered life. And they left me there with a family, and I was enrolled in Mexico City College. I should have been a sophomore in high school, but I was a college student, which I thought was great, and all I was to do was to study Spanish and art. Well, they never came back. So pretty soon, I'm scared to death. What am I going to do? I didn't have any money. The landlady said to me, you know, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave if you can't pay your rent. And I'm going, where am I going to go? I came back to school because I was going to Mexico City College, and I saw a little church on the corner. And I thought, well, you know, at that time, everybody talked about God, and we all knew, even the children who had dysfunctional parents, we knew that we could call on God. So my first thought was, I'm going to go in that church and ask God what I should do. And that's exactly what I did. I sat in there, and I can remember sitting in the pew. It was a little church, and it had a window up on the left-hand side, and the light was coming through, and I just sat there. I don't remember what I did, but I got a lot of ideas on how I could save myself, and I did. So that's just my story, part of it, and anybody can save themselves. You do not have to go to the streets. You do not have to look for people, but you better check in with your God and make a direct connection with him and say, I need help. Help me.
Listening to you a while back, you were telling the children, if it feels wrong, it probably is. Listen to how you feel. That is innate within the very depth of our being.
Mm-hmm.
If we're willing to do something that feels wrong to make somebody like us, they don't like us. They're not accepting us. They are enslaving us through our fear.
Yeah.
Our fear of loneliness, our fear of rejection.
And how pathetic is that? How sad that all these people, because they have gifts from God, all of them, and yet they've turned it into evil. All of us have that power. And you mentioned the intuition that we all have. Even a bird knows when to fly south, and that is their instincts. We all have instincts. We know when to fly south, and we know when to fly to heaven. But when are we going to take a look at what is really going on with ISIS and what's going on in our own families, neighborhoods, and community? Because we need to make some changes.
I think the thing that is so completely beautiful about people everywhere is that we all have the same basic needs. We all need to be loved. We all need to be accepted. We all need to be accepted for who we are. We all need to know that our inner ability, whatever it is a gift. It's who we are, and it brings us joy. We need to understand that. And it isn't strength to steal that from someone else. It's destruction.
Right.
They don't know the definition of strength. Strength is inner.
Right.
It's not a sword.
That's true. Yeah, and if you're cheating on your tests, and if you're stealing little things here, you're really cheating yourself. You're really, and as a teenager, if you're thinking about taking things that don't belong to you, or lying about your friends, or saying terrible things on the internet about your friends, it comes back. It's called karma. It comes back to you later. It may come in a different form, but you're going to be punishing yourself, basically, when you do the wrong thing. And you know what the wrong thing is. All of us do. We just shut down our conscience because our conscience says to us, hey, think twice before you do that. And if we don't listen, we're going to get ourselves in trouble and go down that slippery slope.
Well, if the only way that they believe they can get it is taking it away from someone else, they will never have anything.
That's right.
Ever, because as the old Hindu says, your karma runs over your dogma.
That's a good one. Sure does.
But what goes around comes around. It really does. Because you've created that cycle.
Well, Rebecca, we've lived long enough to see that happen in people's lives. I saw it in my parents' lives. I've seen it in my friends' lives. I've seen it, if you're a good, honest person, that'll come back to you. Right. If you're a bad, dishonest person, that's going to catch up with you too. So there's no free lunch here.
What we feed the elephant in the room makes it grow. Now, if that elephant happens to be love and compassion, wonderful. If it's hate and a feeling that you can't have anything unless you steal it from somebody, can you imagine the lack of self-confidence a real thief has to think they have to take from somebody else to get something?
Yeah. Yes, it's pretty sad, and their lives they really screw up their own lives, and then they start taking drugs because they can't stand who they've become.
Yeah.
Why are you making these choices and then it's trying to escape from yourself? This is spiritual blindness at its ultimate chaos,
There's a concept of thinking that if they take from somebody else, they're smarter than somebody else. But let's look at that for a minute. Did you ever notice how the thief has to find somebody, like a little kid in the parking lot, and steal his ice cream in order to feel powerful? Or a little old lady that can't walk without her walker and steal her purse in order to feel powerful? If that's power, the guy belongs in a mental institution.
Well, it's so misguided, and, who knows why he makes those choices.
But did you notice that they all find somebody more vulnerable, more helpless to pick on, and imagine that that's a conquest, and that makes them a man? They don't know what a man is. They have no idea, which is my point. If they knew what a man was, it would change their life. If they knew they could be a man by choice and had some help, it would change their life.
Yes, and they're feeding their ego. They're not feeding their spirit.
No.
And when the ego takes over, the ego says, I'm wonderful. Notice me. I can do anything I want because I have power. You see men in power abusing their power because it's very seductive, but it's very, it's very self-destructive. I mean, you saw what happened to some of our politicians that have gone off the chart. You've seen what's happened to some of our Hollywood stars. A lot of them are not even here. They die at an early age. You see children that make really bad choices, and the second biggest killer of our kids in this country is suicide. Is that crazy? Crazy.
But we're back then again to not teaching the child
That's right.
the quality that's in them, that they're born with.
We're not teaching this child how to be spiritually centered. If you're not teaching your child how to find their own center and take responsibility for their life and find that inner power, if you're not teaching them how to do that, and as a matter of fact, I have a book that I wrote a number of years ago called Street Safe Kids, and I wrote it as a result of working with the homeless. I found, what did they not know? They didn't know how to handle their anger. They didn't know how to handle their well, it's a 10-step program, and it's not difficult. Anybody can do it, but you need to educate yourself first, change your life, make those changes within yourself, and become that loving, caring parent. A selfish parent breeds a selfish child. A loving parent breeds a loving child.
We shouldn't hold people terribly responsible for their ignorance when it's all they knew. They were raised by children having children that never grew up themselves,
Right.
and their parents only knew what their parents taught them. So we need a benevolence to reach out, and we need to teach people young, love these kids, embrace these beautiful children just the way they are, and help them grow up centered.
And I would like to discourage more government programs because people that are in government don't necessarily care, and they may be just as messed up. I would suggest that you change your own self, yourself, and then you can help your kids.
Right.
And the government programs, some of them have been very good, but it is going to be people that connect in neighborhoods. I'm sure you've all heard about love thy neighbor. Well, what does that mean? It means you at least know them, at least connect with them, help your kids connect with them, because the kids learn a lot from neighbors about how relationships work. They learn how conflict is handled by you if there's conflict in the neighborhood. They learn how to handle their friends because the parents are out there and the parents are saying, we don't do this, we do this, and this is how you're polite. Neighbors are your best teachers. And if they come to you and say, your child is out of control, you need to take a look, you need to listen. Parents should be the first to know their child is in trouble, not the last. And so many parents they don't want to see that their child is going down the wrong road, and they don't address it, and they hope it goes away, or they hope it just gets better. That's not the way it works.
We also need to help parents, because we have so many parents today that believe that that love means you give your child everything no matter what.
And
It's
that's
okay to give your child wonderful things, but not to give them to the point of irresponsibility. If that child doesn't learn how to be responsible while he's in your care, do you think he's going to be suddenly responsible when he's 18 and you kick him out on the street? He's going to hate you.
or he's going to move back in with you and drive you crazy.
Exactly. There's an old proverb that says, give a man a fish, he'll live for a day. Teach him how to fish, he'll live a lifetime. Teach your
Right.
child how to be self-sufficient, how to be responsible for little things, bigger things, and etc. Teach your child to be responsible for his life, and then he'll be safe. Otherwise, you're crippling him. You're not helping him.
Absolutely. You're making life very miserable for your own kids because they don't have the tools to live life successfully.
That's a lot of our problem with the kids on the street. They actually do not know how to be responsible because they were diapered and burped until they're 19 or 20 years old, and
Yeah,
they don't know how to deal with real life,
yeah,
and they're filled with resentment. This hurts a kid so bad.
yeah. You got to let them make their mistakes and pay the consequences for their mistakes at an early age. All kids make mistakes, and that's okay. That's how they learn. You learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. Mistakes teach us what to do and what not to do.
Look how many light bulbs Thomas Edison created that didn't work before he got one that did.
That's right. Abraham Lincoln ran for office how many times before he was elected? I mean, you have to work at life. You have to understand what life is all about and stop looking for the fast track to stardom, the fast track to money. Those are all false. Maybe you see somebody that did it, but the percentages are very low on. And well, look at Justin Bieber, for example. He was young and made famous at an early age, and now he's really messed up. Guess why? He never had the tools to help him learn how to take charge of his life and be successful. He just had money. A lot of these young Hollywood stars have money, and their emphasis is on how you look on the outside. No, it's how you look on the inside that counts.
If the children are taught to be responsible and their own inner talent, their own inner ability, their own inner strength, then they can control their life. And I don't care how much you dump on them. You can give them 50,000 Stradivariuses. It won't help if they don't learn how to play. If they can't play music, what's the point?
That's right. They've got to be in an orchestra where they learn teamwork, where they
Right.
learn how to get along, and everybody is on the same page and have the same rules. We live in a society in America today where nobody seems to have any rules. We can turn on the police. We don't respect authority. What's with that? If you're in a bad situation, you better respect authority because they're the ones that are going to come and pull you out of a fire or out of a encounter with a bad guy. You need to put your faith in yourself, know how to handle your anger. If you are confronted with a problem, you learn to keep quiet and listen and find out what you can do to solve that problem. You can't just assume that things are going to go great for you and you don't have to work at it. Life is about work. It's about being enlightened and understanding where you are, and that's called self-awareness. If you have no self-awareness, you don't know what you're doing. Self-awareness is the honesty that you look within yourself and say, why did I tell that lie? Why did I cheat on that test? Why did I hit that guy? Why do I hurt? I'm hurting myself. Why am I doing that? And be honestly evaluate, because all of us can do this. Be evaluating where you are and where you want to be. And you can't do it by just rushing through life and not understanding your own awareness. You've got to have self-awareness and self-discipline.
The greatest gift that we can give our children and ourselves is to find that self-awareness. That's the greatest gift there is because it will guide us through life with peace, harmony, confidence, productivity. And the greatest feeling you can ever have is to know that you personally did something that came from
Right.
you that was a contribution. You personally, and that feeling's there if anybody ever knows about it or not. It's the greatest high you can have. Can't buy that with marijuana or drugs. You can't.
No, and you can't necessarily teach it. People, you look at it, look at the many people that are down and out, and yet they don't want to change. They don't want to change their lives. They're sitting in a gutter and they say, "I can't do it. I can't do it." They can do it. I've seen people do it. It's just that you have to understand where you are and your willingness to change yourself to go up the ladder again. If you're down, you got to get up and get going. You got to take responsibility for where you are right today. You are where you're supposed to be today. Now, what are you going to make it to for tomorrow? All of us can change. All of us can make that choice.
We need to reach out and help each other do that. Stephanie, you are such a marvelous teacher, and you have done so much. And you have wonderful books and wonderful instructions for almost anything you could need or think of that we talked about today. Will you inform our listening audience where your website is so they'll have access to getting much more information?
All right. All I have to do is go to www.safe, S-A-F-E, kidsnow.com. And, we do free coaching. We will help you. Just, it says get started right in the front, right at the top of the page. So sign up and we'll be happy to answer your questions, give you some guidance if you want to get involved in taking charge of your neighborhood, if you'd like to help us, or if you have an organization. We have a network. We have a national network. We're reaching out to people from Maine to Florida to Washington, down to California. So join us, become part of our network, and we are going to make changes here. But we need to change and look within ourselves. So join us, and I look forward to hearing from you. You can contact me, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
We also have contacts coming in from other countries. We're expanding.
Yes, we do. I had a gentleman contact me from Pakistan. He said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Okay, here, answer these questions, and I'll see what area, where you are in the scheme of things, and see how we can help." So we've got some very interesting people that are coming on board.
And your television shows are playing in Australia, England, Dubai, and in some of the Taliban nations. So
All
we
right.
have a following there because they need this. And because we know that they're human beings that have human rights, and we reach out to them with love, understanding, and hope.
Definitely, because there is a lot of hope, and there are a lot of people that have very strong spiritual connections that are there to help you, that understand that you don't want to be controlled. You want to be liberated, but liberty comes from within.
Yes, it does. And Stephanie, you also have books for kids. As kids of all ages, you have books for little kids, don't you?
Well, as a matter of fact, we've partnered with the Carr Foundation, and that organization have wonderful books for kids on self-esteem and bullying and diabetes and all kinds of problems. So we're out there to help you.